Alright, so I didn't really make an intro for this video when I started recording this last fall. I pretty much just took the fender off, as you can see right in here, and just worked at this for a while. So this is me taking the rear passenger side fender off so I could bring it in for winter and start work on it. So you can tell I'm fighting with these bolts a good bit because they're all rotted out, probably rotted out back in the 70s, 80s, whenever all the heads are rounded off or non-existent at all. So pretty much cut all of them or broke them out of there. None of them came out in one piece. So I fought with it for a good while. Alright, so we got the 41 Buick Fender in that we looked at last time sometime, and we worked on this dent right here. It's a little high actually right here. But I'm going to go ahead and try to pull this patch off that they put in with brass. You can see the brass under there and some of it right here. This is all brassed in. So what I'm going to try to do is grind the brass off so I can pull this patch off without damaging whatever's underneath too bad, because I need to rebuild this entire corner. So I'll need some measurements, I'll need some shape, and hopefully that's still under there, because if you look in the back, up under here, you can see they just put a patch right over the rust. They didn't even take out any of that and do it the proper way. So I'm gonna try to get this patch off nicely with a grinder, probably work out some of these dents, try to straighten this whole thing out as much as possible, some more than I already have. You can see there's a low spot right here too. It's great to see in the sun. There's a big old dent here, there's a low spot right here, there's a big old dent here leading up to this whole brass plugged area. That almost looks like mud. And then this whole thing, you can see the high spot right there. So I'm gonna have to do a bunch of little hammer and dolly work on this, but I want to get this patch off and see what we got underneath, just so I can see how I can start rebuilding this whole corner and edge. Let's get to that. So I got this patch off. It looks pretty heinous and horrendous, but I think I got some shape there. I can get out of that. I definitely have to reshape all this and reshape this, but I can get most of this curvature back, I think. Or at least get the shape I need out of it with a piece of round rod. Make it the way it's supposed to go. Come down and meet up with this. I'll bend this back to mostly the shape it's in so I can get a piece of cardboard and figure out how to make it from this line here all the way around and up. There's still a lot of brass left. This is all brass here. This is all brass here, here, up here, over here. Pretty much wherever there was a little pinhole, they just filled it with brass. So, got a lot of work on this one fender. Let's get back to it. Quick recap of what I did here. Got the patch off, added some round rod inside there to give this a little bit of rigidity along, there goes my hammer. Give it some rigidity along this edge here. The round rod goes up to right here, so perfectly where there's meat in the back here again. So that gives me some rigidity to work with here. I tacked this back together to get the general shape. I started grinding the brass out. It's now lower than the original steel. I marked out probably patches. These are probably going to be round actually, not square, because welding rounded pieces is a lot easier than welding square pieces, because every time you get in the corner, you're going to burn a round hole in it. I did a bunch of dent work in here. So this is all pretty smooth. I mean, it's obviously not perfect. This whole fender is going to need a skim coat to be perfect. This is still high right up here. This is still low here because you can still see the paint here. This isn't too bad up here, but it's all just little bits here and there. I'm going to skim this whole fender when it comes time, but not now yet. But I did pull all the paint from there all the way up to there as well, so I can see what I'm working with. I do have to rebuild the entire edge all the way around, but that was expected. At least now that I have the round rod in here, especially right there where there's no mounting area, I got the round rod, so I have the shape I need. So now I can take this panel and lay it flat on one of the big pieces of sheet metal that's right there that just came in a few days ago, and I can mark, physically take a Sharpie and mark around this whole edge. Because something that is solid, that didn't change, was this edge. So this edge is the proper shape to go back on the car. So I'll lay this on the sheet metal, mark around the edge, then give myself probably 2 inches. I think probably That's like what that bracket is. I'll give myself 2 inches from this line. I'll mark it, and then I'll cut it out. And probably cut most of this out and then just tack it along the fender as I go. And then cut out my mounting areas as I go as well. Because the car itself, the mounting areas are completely gone. So I can make these fenders mount up however I want. I will probably try to get them in the same spot, like mark this outer edge here and here before I cut this off to say, hey, there was a bolt here, and I'll add a bolt there. And then when it comes over to here, that is a horizontal bracket that goes up under the wheel arch instead of this vertical bracket that goes against the body of the car. So I'll have to make that as well. But it shouldn't be too hard. I'll just cut a slice and bend that 2 inches up there, and then go ahead and drill more holes back in the car. So for the rest of the fender, it's pretty darn straight. I have the cut nuts on the back of this trim piece here soaking right now in penetrating oil, and then I'll run them over with a wire wheel, and hopefully I can get the cut nuts off, because I really don't want to break the studs on the back of this, because these are expensive. Yes, this will have to go out to get re-chromed because it's pitted as all get out, but I'm going to hold off on that until I have an actual shop, until I'm doing mud work on this. So pretty much from here back is almost perfectly straight. It just needs that edge remade and re-welded in. This is high, but from here forward, it's all wavy, and then obviously that's the rotten corner. So I got a bunch of work ahead of me on this one fender, and then of course the passenger, no, this is the passenger. The driver's side fender needs this rust work as well. Thankfully, there's no giant dent that used to be here on the driver's side, because the guy only hit it once in anger and punched it on one side. So the other side is perfectly good as of dents. So we'll go from there. So we got a good bit of perforation down here on the rear section of the rear passenger fender on the 41 Buick. So I'll probably go in and make a patch here where this white mark is, and then another one here. And then obviously I have to rebuild this. That actually goes to a little support piece that keeps this fender from wiggling while it's driving. So I kind of need this. This used to be a loop, and just have a little hole in there for the bolt to go through. So I'm going to rebuild that. It will be a little bit of work, but it's worth it. Not as much work as over here, where I have to rebuild this entire corner right here. And I have to cut out all of these little brass spots and make little patches to go in every one of those spots. And then of course, rebuild the whole mounting surface of the fender where it mounts to the car, because that's all rotted out too. But it should be fun. So these were the perforations we started with. If you look up at the light there, you can see there's a good bit of holes there. That was this piece down here. I still have to drill this mount out, this mounting hole that goes to a rod that goes to the body to stop this from moving around. So that was that. Obviously over here. That. There. Boop, boop. So that one's done. You saw this one, same thing. There's a lot of perforations in there. So that was there. So now down below here, we have no perforations. What I can do now is I can feather this paint all out, all the way up here, and then do a quick prime. I gotta do something about this little rust stuff down here. Prime, quick skim coat with probably some, what do you call it, fiberglass filler, waterproof stuff. Good and durable, but still has a little bit of flex to it because this fender down here might flex just a touch. White, 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 block, block. Spray with flat black paint after some more primer. Away she goes for that for now. And then I get all this brass to deal with and this giant mess. Alright, so right now I'm going to be working on these. I need to cut the brass out, make little patches that go in here and weld them in, smooth them out like I did with this big one down here, but all these, because I don't like brass Brass is the old school way of doing it. It cracks easy. And they didn't even cut out the rust, they just brassed through it. So I cut all these out, make little patches for them, weld them in there. Got one more left. One more, I can do it. So I got that last brass patch done right over there. And then ground it down, did a little bit of hammer dolly work. Not done yet, but it's close. It's still got more work to do, but for now, it's getting really humid out, so I threw a quick coat of enamel primer on it after I prepped it, just to try to get it to not flash rust. I will go back again with a DA or something and buzz that primer back down. I just didn't want to deal with rust. You can see there's still some waves and dents, like right there. You can see in the wet primer. Some dents and whatnot. And some dents down here where the patches are. But I'll hammer and dolly a little bit of that out, and then filler will take care of the rest. Now I'll wait for this to dry, and then flip it over, paint the back side of all those patches, and then get to work on this edge here. The mounting edge. Alright, so I got the basic lip shape here going all the way around. It looks like something happened when I was making the template, like the Fender tweaked or something. As you can see, I got extra right here, and I hold it against it. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. But for now, I'm just gonna tack this on here all the way around and make this work. I still have some meat on the original Fender back here, but I'm gonna tack this on here because I do have to build the car side of it before I make this final, so I know that the two mesh up perfectly. And needless to say, if this was gone on the Fender itself, it's pretty much completely gone on the car. So alright, so quick recap of what we just saw in the video. There's patches down here. Those were perforations from the rust. I got 3 brass patches up here. That big patch down there that was all rotted out. So a total, I think we got a total of 7 patches on this. And then you saw I cut out that whole mounting area that was all rusted off of there. And then I used the cardboard template, and then I laid this down and traced it out and got that piece. So for now, what I did was I tacked it on here all the way around, so it's where it's supposed to be. But the thing is, the car side that this part here mounts to is rotted away as well. So I'm going to rebuild the car side before I fully weld this, so I can make them match up perfectly to each other. And then I can go around and weld it up exactly how I want it. Also, I haven't drilled mounting holes yet for the same reason, because on the car side I'm going to use riv nuts, which I'll show you later. They're really cool. But I need to figure out where the bolts go. Looking at pictures, I did miss one bolt mount right here. There's supposed to be another one of these loops right here. But, I mean, that's what I have scrap steel and a welder for. So I'm just going to make another one and weld it right there. This one here and this one here are supposed to be bent at right angles to go up underneath the wheel arch of the car, which also I'm going to do afterward, after I rebuild that whole area, so I know exactly where I'm putting those riv nuts. So pretty much the Fender is done with what I'm going to do in the shop right now without the car side being done. But I think it looks pretty good. It still needs work, but it's definitely way better. And obviously it's going to need mud and everything to make it perfectly straight. That's a whole nother video. So as it sits, that's that one Fender down. And boy, it's taken a while due to rain, life happening, all kinds of other fun stuff. But thankfully, pretty much done.